For those of you that follow my channel, you know that I've recently embraced digital modeling here in the studio with what I think is the ultimate hybrid setup. But what if you're a pure amp guy and you've never used a modeler? Well, my best friend, he's a great guitar player and he's considering getting his first modeler.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, what's up?
Is your bidet working, man?
No, but I have a power washer in the garage.
God damn it. I might need the jaws of life with this one. I have to use it.
Hey there, I'm Dan, the self-proclaimed lonely rocker. Thank you so much for joining me today. So I'm excited, special episode today. Right here, the man, the one and only, my best friend in the whole world. This is Guy. He's an awesome guitar player. We've known each other for longer than I think God has existed.
It's true.
But we've grown up together. We both play guitar. We've learned from each other. We've seen each other play live. We've seen each other at our best and our worst. And we take a bit of a divergence in the last few years as I focus more on recording, as you know. But Guy continues to play live. He's got a band, so he's jamming, rehearsing. He plays live sometimes. So he's got very, very different needs. So first of all, welcome.
Nice to be here.
I know it's a little weird because we're the kind of guys that get silly when we get together, but it's okay. Anyways, since I recently got into modeling, those of you who follow this channel know that's becoming a bigger and bigger topic here on the channel, recently acquiring the Fractal FM9, Helix here as well as some of more budget modelers that I featured here on the channel. So, of course, Guy's been witnessing this rebirth or whatever, this evolution. We love our amplifiers. Just so you know, he loves amps probably more than me. Playing live, he's probably one of the few players that still lugs an amp to the gigs.
Love it.
Pedals and things like that. However, what's the thing that may have changed your mind a little bit?
I love the Fractal because it's so easy to use when you're doing that demonstration on the FM9. But here's the thing. I love the amp sound, but I want to use the Fractal as my effects platform, so to speak, you know? So how do I do that? Right? I want the amp. I want to hear the preamp. I want to hear my tubes and everything live, but I want to lug around my pedal board.
Okay.
Right?
So now the thing is, your experience so far has only been with the Fractal FM9.
Yeah.
So I want to throw this out to you guys, okay? Keeping in mind that he's not a newbie when it comes to guitar amps and pedals. He's got a very polished tone and knows exactly what he likes. That's the one thing, he knows what he likes. But now that he's been enlightened to the whole concept of modeling, he fell in love with the FM9 the first time he got a chance to try it. So what I suggested that he needs to check out a bunch of different devices to see what will suit his workflow. So in terms of technology, I mean, the guy's a pilot, so he knows certain technologies. But when it comes to guitars and things like that, he doesn't record, so you're not really into all the modern tech and things like that. So he's pretty simple in that regard. So throwing it out to you guys, what do you think the best device is for him? We're going to discuss his personal needs, and I'm hoping that you guys could share some thoughts in the comments, suggesting a product that would suit his particular needs. All right, so to start off, so you mentioned that you're looking possibly to replace your pedal board.
Yep.
Okay, so you definitely want to use your amp.
Yep.
Now, is there ever going to be a possibility that maybe you'll just show up with one thing without an amp?
When I'm practicing at home, sure.
Okay, so you basically need an all-in-one then. So you're basically, like, for example, the Fractal FM9 is an all-in-one because it has amp models and it has effects. Now, you can use it as an all-in-one. You can show up to a gig just with that, or you can use that with an actual amplifier. So that's actually something I think is really important to understand is your personal need is right now to replace your pedal board, but you still want some amplifier functionality.
For sure.
So tell us a little bit about your current rig and how you see this device replacing that.
Well, the current rig, I just have a basic amp and I have the pedal board, but there's no effects loop in the amp.
Okay.
It's an old school amp. So I plug everything into the front. And as you can imagine, it gets a little wishy-washy when it gets to delays and things like that. Not so much reverb because there's a built-in reverb, but everything's going right through the front, which is okay, but it's hard to control it. Right? The amount of effect and stuff like that. So with the modulation stuff especially, but the other stuff's okay, overdrives and things like that, because I use the pedal as the main source of the sound, as my rhythm or my heavy channel, right? So I use pedals for that. So because I like to keep the volume down. right?
One thing we discussed off camera and the limitation of having an amp that doesn't have a send return, you said you might be open to getting a new amp
Yep.
with a send return.
Yep. And I was wondering what method you could teach me to do that. I'm going to use the digital effects through the amp somehow. I don't want it going through the front. I want a little bit more control, and I want the simplicity of this, bringing that instead of a whole massive pedal board to every gig.
Now, this is where you guys can really help us, is because, or at least help him, is deciding on the signal routing that he's going to need. Now, you mentioned that putting your delays and reverbs into the front is creating a bit of a wishy-washy tone, which, I mean, some people like to do that for effect, but conventional thinking is that we put delays and reverbs after the preamp.
Yep.
So we shape our tone, we'll put our boosts, drives, and things in front of our amp, and then the reverbs and delays will happen after that. Of course, an amp without a send and return, there's no way to get behind the preamp. So the fact that you're considering a new amplifier is really going to open up some options for you, because there's a couple of different ways that you can connect a multi-effects device to the amplifier. Now, with a send and return loop, if you run through the send and return, you're placing all of the effects after the preamp. But it sounds to me that you subscribe to the conventional thinking in terms of proper placement of, I say proper, I'll put it in air quotes, but proper placement, boosts and drives before the preamp, delays and reverbs after the preamp.
Sure.
Right? So that's something that you'd like to continue. Now, that's actually possible using 4-cable method. That's where we're using, instead of just the send and return loop, we're actually using 4 cables and combining the input of the amplifier, because all of these modelers actually have a block where you can bring a send return into it. So in virtually placing boosts that would come in through the input of the amp, but the delays and the reverbs will go through the return. So they'll come in after. So it's very flexible, just like if you were using a pedal board and pedals in front of your amp at the same time. You place them before and after the way you want them. So the reason I asked if you wanted to have a device that could also be an amplifier, because, for example, let's actually talk about specifics. Line 6 has a number of products from, well, we've got the Helix here, which is an all-in-one, much like the Fractal. So you've got all of your amp models, you've got effects, you've got tons of signal routing. I use it for recording and that. But that's going to give you everything. Okay, you've got the expression pedal built on board, so if you want a wah-wah, it'll even handle that. Yeah. All in one. The Fractal pretty much is the same thing. It doesn't have a built-in expression pedal, so if you do like wah-wahs, you can use expression pedal, which is a lot lighter than an actual one. So there are options here. But the reason I asked you, because Helix also makes like the HX Effects box, which is all of the Helix effects without the amplifiers. It becomes a price point at this point. So that would be a complete replacement for your pedal board. But as a standalone, you're not going to have all of the amp models that comes with the Helix. Or there's also the LT, which is a bit cheaper than this one, but it still gives you the full range of effects that Helix has to offer. Also, there's the HX Stomp, which is their smaller pedal version of the Helix platform. Again, quality-wise, everything is the same, whether you've got the HX Stomp, there's the HX Stomp XL, which is the larger pedal that has more buttons on it. Then you've got the full-blown Helix. Now, in the Fractal world, FM9, which you already tried, there's an FM3, which is a smaller version of the FM9. Again, you're going to get the same quality, just a bit less. It has a little less processing, and you can't stack amps. This is a foreign concept to you, because in shaping your tone, you're used to one amplifier and shaping your tone with pedals. If you do get into this world, you can create, if you want to create tones with it and bypass your amp altogether, you can, in fact, if you're using a combo, you can take the whole thing and throw it into the return of your amp. That will amplify the tone coming off the modeler. There's a lot to process here, right?
Lots of information.
I'm just curious what you're thinking, though, like how far you because I guess we really want to understand what it is that you want to do today and maybe 6 months from now.
I like this 4-cable method. I'm sure you're going to demonstrate this and explain it to me. But I understand the simple logic of it. It makes a lot of sense to me because it would be more consistent. Because when you're walking around the pedal board, knobs get moved around here and there, and you have to kind of retweak all the time. Here, I'm assuming I can get my sound, the amount of reverb I desire, or I don't know, delays or whatever, and I can have several ones to choose from. But when I get that patch, that's what I'm going to get every time, in every building, every room, right?
What's interesting, though, and I already know what I'm going to hear from a lot of people. They're going to say, if you're already going with something like a Helix or FM9, why do you need an amplifier, right? And listen, guys coming from the amp world are a little hesitant to go all the way right away. So, I mean, what I can say from here, regardless of what you end up choosing, I mean, budget you'll choose with your needs, budget, and all of those things will come into play. But as someone who's only ever used amplifiers, the concept of getting rid of the amplifier completely is very foreign to you, right?
Yeah, it's new.
Yeah. No, because I know already there's going to be 100 people out there who's going to say, dude, what do you need an amp for? Like, just grab an FM9 and show up to the gig with one thing and you got everything you need and it'll sound as good as you, and consistent as you ever did. But that's an evolution, I think, that needs to happen. But there's a whole range of products at all sorts of different price points. I mean, if you want to go entry level, we're showing you the Boss ME90, for example. That's a very, very entry level, but it's got Boss grade effects. So think of any Boss pedal that you've ever used. Those effects are in the ME90. If you want to go with something like TONEX, for example, those are great sounding amplifiers. In terms of bang for buck, you're going to get every amp you can imagine, and plus you can download amps for free off the web and put them on your pedal. The problem with that is that you do need to incorporate some additional effects because there's only reverb, there's no nothing else. Now, you could incorporate that with your existing pedal board.
Yeah, but I don't want to lug around a giant pedal board all over the place. That's the thing.
Right. Okay, so that would definitely, but you can also do combinations. Like sometimes people will go with that for their amps, and then they'll get something like an HX effects to wrap around it for their effects, and then you basically have two small devices on a tiny pedal board in a case, and you're done. So this is the reason why I'm having this conversation, because there's so many ways to approach this, and which is why I want to lean on you guys. Is for someone like this, this is going to be a learning experience for him. It was be your first foray into amp modelers. I mean, my decision was probably a bit easier because I'm recording, and I wanted something that had a lot of I/O, right? So I ended up getting the Fractal FM9 first, and then the Helix followed soon after. I'm making content, so I just want to make sure I cover all the bases. Maybe we need to get a Quad Cortex here at some point. That's something maybe to consider too. I mean, do you have a budget in mind?
Not really. I'm assuming if I was to sell all the stuff on my current pedal board, it'd probably be $1,500 or so Canadian, right?
All right, so you're getting into just below sort of the pro grade floorboards.
Yeah.
Because Line 6 recently dropped their prices about $200 on their floorboards. So they're coming in at, I believe, around 2,000 or a little bit more than that. Okay. The FM9 is only available via Fractal Direct. There's no retail. Because we're here in Canada, we can actually order directly from Fractal US. They have distributors around the world, so depending where you are. But in Canada, I bought mine. It was here in 5 days. And in fact, he's the one who received it for me when they came. So that's, $1,500. You're kind of at a Helix LT range right now.
Yeah.
Where you'll get all the amps, you'll get all the effects, a few less bells and whistles that the full Helix has, but it's not going to shortchange you on any tone.
Yeah.
Okay. Helix is the older unit.
Oh.
Because it's this is the 9th year for the Helix. We talk about that a lot. Is that an issue? Now, in terms of processing, the Helix is a dual processing device, whereas the FM9, I believe, has 4 chips in it. I think it's got more power, which means you could layer more. But again, this comes back to a whole new world.
Yeah.
You're used to one amp and a few pedals.
Yep.
Using the FM9, you can stack amplifiers, have multiple cabinets, there's just so far you can go with your tones.
Yeah.
And my personal concern with the Fractal products, now he loves how it sounds, but there's going to be a technical learning curve for sure. I think the Helix, in terms of operating it, you'll be operating it a lot quicker. It just depends on how much time you're willing to spend
learning the device.
Okay. There's a much bigger learning curve with the Fractal, and I say much bigger because for those of us who are used to recording and we're kind of used to dealing with this stuff, it's more adapting our knowledge to using the Fractal. But you're coming in cold, so you're like, none of the philosophy of that device is going to make sense to you because it's just going to be a total foreign language, you know? So like all the menu diving and like the deep dive into tweaking and things like that. Like I said, with the Helix, just imagine you have a bunch of blocks and each block represents a pedal or an amp or a speaker. And you can just, on the screen, you just put them in the order that you want and you're done. Then you can go into each block and that's how you adjust it.
Yeah.
The Fractal works kind of like that as well, but there's a lot more layers. You could tweak the bias of the tubes of the amp. There's just a lot more deep diving into it. Now, when you learn it, it's a lot of fun. It's probably even more flexible, but there's probably a lot of things in there that's going to be very, very foreign to you. Now, and the other thing too is because he's primarily playing live and rehearsing, there's a whole side of the technical side of the device that I think is not going to be applicable to you in your case. So, one thing I was thinking, because I know you played the FM9 before and you're basing your opinion so far on what it sounds like, which of course is important. But I wanted you to take a look at the Helix because when I use the FM9, it's connected to my computer, and all of these devices have an application that runs on the computer. And I know you're kind of untethered. You don't necessarily want to be connected to your computer, right? And the difference, I think, between these two devices is this one, the Helix, is much easier to use on its own. The thing about the Fractal, it has a lot more deep dive. And some people say that it's confusing. I talked about this in another video, but it is more complicated.
Yeah.
I use this connected to my computer 99% of the time. I rarely manipulate it here because I find it a little bit more cumbersome. And I'm concerned a little bit because I know you love the sounds.
Yeah.
But the Helix, which sounds great also, it's a lot easier to use right on the device. So I think one consideration for you, because you're less technical, this device is a lot easier to use on board. And this one, it really helps to hook it up to your computer and build all your presets. Not that you can't do it. It's kind of the same thing, but there's a lot more deep dive with it. So I think that should be at least a consideration for you. Any other considerations of thing that you're thinking?
I like to use it for practice around the house, right? So I'm not, I don't have to have an amp all the time. I could plug in, I guess you plug it into the computer, so to speak, and just use it to develop my sound, to practice at the house. That's it, and you're good to go. But when you're playing the smaller rooms, I like the consistency of something, right? Rather than the pedal board, and just have a small amp because I like my amp still, but I like that too, right? The new devices, I'll call them, okay? I like both. So I just want to combine the two.
Now, when you practice, are you okay with headphones, or you actually want to hear it?
I like to hear it.
I like to hear it outside with a speaker. So that may involve other accessories. I can already hear, get an FR speaker. I'm sure we're going to hear that. But I really, really want to hear from you guys. I mean, like I said, this is someone that really knew. It's exciting, to discover. I mean, he's been playing for a long time and has never really played with gear like this. So he's really interested to hear what you guys have to say about this and really dig in and think about his personal needs and let us know what you think would be the perfect device. Is it one device? Is it a combination of things? There's a lot of things to consider, and products that we haven't even mentioned here, because I always get feedback on products that even I haven't heard about. So definitely worth considering. So anyway, listen, awesome to finally have you here.
It's great to be here.
And he'll definitely be reading through the comments to see what you guys have to say.
Hey, Dad.
Hey.
Is your bidet working? Hey, is your bidet working?
It was yesterday.
Fuck. I can't take it anymore.
Okay, we'll go more. Okay, keep going. Trust me. Trust me.
Oh,
get out. He's considering getting his first modeler.
Hey, Dad.
Hey.
Is your bidet working?
No, but I got a power washer in the garage.
I had some enchiladas last night.
Well, I've got a good friend of mine that's considering getting his first modeler.
Hey, Dad. Is your bidet working?
No, but I got a power washer in the garage.
Good, because I ate 10 bowls of chili last night. Hey, Dad.
Hey.
Is your bidet working?
No, but I've got a power washer in the garage.
Tried that last night. Got arrested.
Do two more. These are good. These are good.
No more. I can't take it.
Anyways, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And while you're here, I've got a video right here to check out. I've got all kinds of modeling content, so a video I think you might be interested in. And remember, you don't need a band to rock and roll. And I'll catch you in the next one.